Good morning, class. So today I want to talk about the law of cosine. So when we use the law of cosine. So for the previous video, we talked about the law of sine and the ambiguous cases. So if you see anything like angle, side, angle, angle, size, angle, angle, size, so using the law of sine. Or the ambiguous cases, if you see anything that's such as side, side, angle, you have to go through the ambiguous cases test. But when do we use the law of cosines? So let's take a look at that. So this one obviously is given as sine angle psi, so looks like nothing we can do with the law of sine. Okay, so what we can do, so let's go through the derivation of the law of cosine, the formula, so how I prove it. So let's say that the height, it's a triangle here. So we do have the height, and then this segment here, so the whole thing here is b. So let's say this minor segment, it's x. So that means the rest of the segment here, it's a b minus x. And now we do have C. We do have this right triangle here. So by using the Pythagorean theorem, we do know that the longest leg quantity square is the same as the shorter leg quantity square plus the height quantity square. So using the Pythagorean theorem. And then we try to expand it by using the binomial expansion or FOIL. And now you'll see that c squared equals b squared minus 2bx plus x squared plus h squared. And then for x squared plus h squared, we want to find out exactly what that is. So according to another right triangle here, so we can set up another Pythagorean theorem. So a squared equals x squared plus h squared. So that means x squared plus h squared can be replaced by a squared. And then from here, so we just want to rewrite it. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2bx. And now you want to find out what x is in terms of the other variable. So cosine of capital C, so that equals x over a. So cosine is considered adjacent over hypotenuse of this right triangle. And then cross multiply, so we do have a cosine C equals x. Again, replacement or substitution, you'll see that x can be replaced by a cosine capital C. Everything else, you just want to bring it down. Just rewrite it. And then just swap those terms around, the variables. So we do have this. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times cosine of capital C. And guess what? This one is the formula for the law of cosine. And also this one can be rewritten as b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac times cosine of capital B. So b, it's always the included angle right between those two segments. And then the third formula, so it's pretty similar. So a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of capital A. So the way to recognize this, so the first half of the formula, it's just like the Pythagorean theorem. But don't forget, you always want to subtract the product, 2 times the product of the other segments, times cosine of the included angle. Okay, so that's the best way to recognize the formula. So the first half, Pythagorean theorem, and then the rest of this, it's the product of 2 times the rest of the segments times cosine of the included angle. Okay, so now let's do one example like this. So let's say that we do have, excuse me, we do have angle A given, segment B, so 14, and then the other line segment is 10. So in order to find out the rest of the unknown, so we use the law of cosine. And you might be wondering which one that we need to apply for this. Well, since we need to find out what A is, so we're using the first one. Okay, so by plugging the numbers, so we do have a squared equals 14 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 14 times 10. And then cosine of capital A, which is cosine of 50. So basically you just squared all the number here, subtract the product of 2, 14, and 10, and cosine of 50. So here's what we find. So put it into the calculator. So A, eventually it's about 10.77. Okay, you can always use that graphing calculator alpha and then store that to a letter because you want to use the number over and over again to find out the rest of the unknown. So round it to the nearest 10. So we do have A equals 10.8. And now in order to find out the rest of the unknown, so the rest of the angle here, we're using the law of sine. So using the law of sine, so sine of capital A over A equals sine of capital B over B. Plug in a number. Again, B is already found. Well, A is already found. So divided by that number, so you got 85 degrees. And then the third step, you want to find the third angle. Guess what? You can use the triangle sum theorem. So it's 180 minus 50 minus 85. You'll get 45 degrees. Okay, so now let's try another example. So this time is given as psi, psi, psi. So if that's psi, 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 again, we're using the law of cosine. So using the first form. Again, plug in the number, evaluate. Now before you isolate that cosine of capital A, make sure that you need to square each term first. And then find out the product of 2 times 10.6, 8.4. Because eventually you're going to divide it before you take the inverse of the ratios. So subtract both sides by 10.6 square, 8.4 square. And then this one is being isolated. And also divide both sides by the product of negative 2, 10.6, 8.4. Okay, so that will give you the brand new constant. And now, whatever the new constant that you have right here, so that will give you the ratios of cosine of A. So that means we need to take the inverse of cosine of the ratio. So the way to do that, second cosine, parentheses, parentheses, of all the whole quantity, divided by, well, I'll try to do that on the Android. That's the process you need to go through. Or you can do one thing at a time, find out the ratios of the whole thing here, and then take the inverse of cosine. So it depends on which way that you prefer. And for the angle, you always want to round it to the nearest degree. So it's 97 degrees. And now for the rest of the angle, you can use the law of sine, or you can use the law of cosine again. It's up to you. So it doesn't matter. So the next one, you want to use the law of cosine again, or you can use the law of sine, either way. Again, plug in a number, find out the ratio, and then take the inverse of the ratio with cosine. And then angle B, you'll get 47 degrees. And then last but not least, so in order to find out the third angle, using the triangle sum theorem once again. So triangle sum theorem. So 180 minus 47 minus 97. So you get 36. Okay, so here's the little summary. So anytime that you do have psi and psi, so that means we're using the law of cosine. Okay, then the law of sines. Okay. What about psi, psi, psi? Also using the law of cosine. Or you can use the law of cosine twice, or the other way, you can use the law of sine to find out the rest of the unknown. Okay, so thank you for watching the video today. I'll see you next time.